I'll get in position here. So this summer, our study continues of American creeds and Presbyterian creeds. We are taking a look at what Americans have said that we now lift up as wonderful examples of moral thought. And we're spending some extra time week after week after looking at our Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. We're spending time with a great moral leader, President Abraham Lincoln. And Abraham Lincoln, we're going to look at his first inaugural. We've already looked at his second inaugural, and we're going to look at the Gettysburg Address this time. So today is the first inaugural. Let's take a look at Lincoln's, just a little segment of his first inaugural address. And I'll tell you what, it's in our liturgy. Did you recognize some of this from our liturgy? Ephraim just read this. I was struck by that phrase in his first inaugural, mystic chords of memory. I just thought that was so evocative. Mystic chords of memory. So there's this mystical universe that we are within that summons our memory. We have this mystic thing that we are going through life, he said to the people. And this mystic chord stretching from every battlefield and patriot grave to every living heart and hearthstone all over this broad land will yet swell the chorus of union. Union, but toward a more perfect union has been our theme, toward a more perfect union with each other and with Jesus Christ. So he's saying this mystic sense will help us again experience union together. When again touched, as surely, he's such an optimist, so hopeful, surely this chord will be touched again by the better angels of our nature. Have any of you heard the term better angels before? Never? Is this the first time? Better angels? Any thoughts about, if you know about better angels, anything you want to say about better angels? So there's something within us that maybe nudges us toward a better way, a better angel of our nature. So Lincoln, in his first inaugural, it was March 4, 1861, was summoning Americans. We got this. There's a mystic chord of union that's going to glue it together, even though there is strife between the southern states and the northern states, and whether it was the Fugitive Slave Act or other things that were going on in this time. He summoned them. We can be unified here. So I was thinking, I was going to do mystic chords of union, was going to be the theme for today. And then when I saw better angels, I'm like, why not do better angels? So then I thought, I'm going to dig into better angels of our nature and talk about that. Meanwhile, when I actually read his first inaugural in depth, I was kind of shocked to see what was in there. I was shocked to see that a lot of what he wrote about was an appeal to the southern states. He appealed to them saying, listen, I'm not your enemy here. You have nothing to fear from me regarding your idea about slavery. I'm not going to touch that. I'm just the president, and you know what? Regarding slavery, the courts will figure it out, our Constitution will figure it out, the legislators will figure it out, and I'm just the president. I'm just here for 4 years, and we're in this together. Don't worry, we're one team. I was shocked how appeasing Lincoln sounded to the southern states. So he had that vibe of like, come on now, I'm not your enemy. I'm the president of everybody, and I'm not going to touch your slavery. I'm not going to touch your state rights. I was shocked. And I had heard that some of Lincoln's writings weren't, yay, we're all in this, we are one people. So you have to admit, some of his writings signal appeasement of slavery. And then a lot of the rest of the inaugural, it's not that long, appeals to union. And he said, Southern states, you can't really leave us because we're already a union. There's no such thing as secession. You cannot secede because we're a union. That's impossible. It is legally impossible. It is physically impossible because we're a union. And so he builds this logic that there's no way you could start a war and that we are not a union. And so he sets it up, and then at the end, he has this mystic chord, it's going to keep us together, and we're all going to follow the better angels of our nature, and it's going to be okay. Was it okay? No. What happened next? I'm counting on you, Bob Brandt. What happened next? What date did the Civil War start? I had to look it up. What date did it start? Yeah. Yeah. So 5 weeks later, kaboom. We might think that appealing to people's better angels is a failing strategy. I'm going to say that out loud. Because all summer long, I'm like, a better angels, let's go for our better people. Let's rely on our better angels. And now I have to tell you, persuading people to act from a sense of their better angels, doing that alone is a failing strategy. I'll return to that. Isn't that depressing? Can you imagine how depressed and burdened Lincoln must have felt that he put it out there, trying to appease the aggressors. And, let's, come on, guys, I'm appealing to your better nature there. And then war, and then 4 years of war. Do you wonder if he kind of beat himself up and thought, God, should I have strategized better? Should I have been nicer to those people? Do you think he thought, what have I done wrong to irritate these people? And then not only that, but just 4 years of a slog, of a horrible, bloody, terrible battle. Wow. What an incredible moral leader he was. So in Lincoln's speech, as I said, I was kind of taken with this better angel image. Then this week I looked again at Hebrews, which I had paired with Lincoln's inaugural. And if you saw me at the beginning of the week, I said to you, I have no idea why I paired Hebrews with Lincoln's second inaugural. No clue. And I went back to dig in my file. I had no clue. I left myself no breadcrumbs. So I had to start all over again and say, why Hebrews? And it dawned on me, maybe one thing I thought in choosing Hebrews is that Hebrews does have an image of angels. And it says we are called to entertain angels or we are to entertain strangers or welcoming strangers because we can be entertaining angels unaware. You heard that before? So welcome the stranger. You could be entertaining angels unaware. So it's this evocation of the book of Genesis when Abraham entertains angels. So I thought, well, maybe that's why I picked it. And then my mind was brought back to Hebrews' most famous image, the image of the cloud of witnesses. So while Abraham Lincoln tried to urge morality by telling people, you have a better angel, listen to your better angel. If we all stick to our better angel, we'll be okay. So he used better angel as a mode of persuasion. And the writer of Hebrews used the cloud of witnesses as a way to urge morality. How do we get on the path? How do we know good from bad? We have this cloud of witnesses. If this Hebrews passage sounds familiar, we bring it up about every single All Saints Day. We talk about the cloud of witnesses. And a lot of times when we talk about the cloud of witnesses on All Saints Day, we're talking about our loved ones who have died. And in Hebrews, the cloud of witnesses statement comes right after he says, by faith, Abraham did this. By faith, Moses did this. By faith, the women did this. And he lists person after person after person who did very, very courageous things. And they did it not on their own accord, but by faith. And they are this big cloud of witnesses. They are our example of righteousness. And that's where we go as our example. Anybody know the context for the book of Hebrews? And I had to look it up myself. It was a time of persecution. The people were living in a very cruel time when people weren't listening to the better angels. So that's a thing. Squirrels happen. I'll tell you later more about that. We live in situations where better angels are not being enacted. And the people, the writer of Hebrews were writing, he was writing to, or she was writing to, they were writing to, those people were being treated poorly. They were experiencing cruelty, persecution, probably death. And this made them desolate. It made them so sad to be living in a system where the worst angels were winning. And so they thought, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I should shrink a little bit. Maybe I should hold off on Jesus here. It's, others won't like it. Maybe I should give up my faith. And the writer of Hebrews says, no, hang in there. You got this. Other people have been through stuff like this. And he summons them to remember the great cloud of witnesses who did courageous things on behalf of the common good years ago. And then there's this big cloud. There may be individuals and groups doing the wrong thing, but we got our cloud. We got our cloud of witnesses urging us to run our race and to be free from the opinions of worse angels. And we are to look to that cloud as our guide, not people. We are to look to Jesus as our guide, not people behaving immorally. Come on, everybody. You can look to Jesus. You can look to these faithful people and run your race well. When I thought about the cloud this week, and I've got, a cloud image there, it reminded me of another image. Our Synod of Lakes and Prairies has a wonderful witness to Indigenous people. Our Synod exec, Alona Street Stewart, is from an Indigenous background. And Alona consistently lifts up the voices of Indigenous people and puts us in touch with Indigenous voices and ways. So I went to Synod training this spring, and when a wonderful Indigenous leader was there speaking, faith leader was speaking. And he said, sometimes I remember a poster I had in my dorm room, and it was, "We, the resilient, have been here before." And I've got that picture here. We, the resilient, have been here before. And it has kind of a grizzled looking person. And I was reminded that Indigenous people, they might not use the term cloud of witnesses. They have an idea of like the ancestors. The ancestors are watching us. And, the ancestors, whether it was the Wampanoag from, say, the 1600s and 1700s that were in, say, where Massachusetts is now, and that people came over from Europe and said, nobody's here, and there's all this land. When the reality is the Wampanoag people were there and had been there for 10,000 years. when we talk about the cloud of witnesses, when we talk about indigenous people and what happened in the 1600s and 1800s and forward, we may just think, okay, this is something back in history, and how do you fix it? Too much, don't even give a thought to it. I think the issue is not back then this happened, but it's happening right now. And we are the cloud. You know, there's a cloud of witnesses out there in the mystic space. We are the cloud now. At Synod School this year, one of my evening classes, I listened to people from Minnesota talking about how they were a cloud of witnesses for their neighbors. And they saw how their neighbors were being treated and how people were not listening to their better angels and were treating their neighbors with cruelty, the lack of dignity, and even violation of their constitutional rights. And it was so very painful to watch this situation of not better angels, but people operating from a place of worse angels and what to do. And this cloud of neighbors, some of them decided to not just be bystanders, they were witnesses. And when they saw that their neighbor was being harmed, they went out and they blew a whistle. And it alerted other neighbors to come and see and bear witness to what was going on. And some of the perpetrators of worse angels might have had their consciousness raised that there was a cloud of witnesses. They weren't just sitting on their couch. They were out saying, something's up with our neighbor. We need witnesses. What's going on here? We need to speak up and say something. We are the cloud now, and there's a violation of morals. So signaling everybody. So we are the cloud today. You are a moral agent of Jesus Christ. How many here think they know the difference between right and wrong? Please raise your hand. How do you know when something is right or wrong? I'd like to hear 3 examples from you. How do you know? You don't hurt somebody else. What else? Treat people with dignity and respect. What else? Don't take other people's things. Wow, these are good. Let's keep going. You got some other ones to throw out there? Fairness.
Well, I think a good thing is to think, if this was happening to you, would you like this?
If it was happening to you, would you like this?
Like to be rubbed here or taken down here? What's happened to other people?
Yeah.
Would you like that?
Walking in other people's shoes. Really good. Other things that help you know right from wrong. Or, so you think you got some clues? And if it's wrong, what can you do? Speak up, what? Apologize. Okay. If it's you that does wrong, there should be, you hope you have a better angel to say, I'm wrong. What else? Anything else when you see wrong? I invite you to blow the whistle. Okay? You ready? That's the whistle of righteousness. To God be the glory. Amen. Amen.